I got some stuff to say. I took notes so I didn't get off topic. So I'm going to be looking at my screen most of the time. So here we go. First thing I want you guys to take note of is that I'm not speaking to demographics specifically. I'm not speaking to the black community or the white community, because apparently that's a thing now. I'm not speaking to demographics. I'm not speaking to people in regards to race or gender, whatever have you, or social class, whatever the case may be. I'm just speaking to all of you because I feel like something that's important for us to do is to speak to everybody. I think what prevents us from having a sense of perspective is not being willing to listen to each other from all over the place, even if it means that we do ultimately disagree with everybody, or especially if it means that we have a new sense of perspective or a new sense of understanding. In times like these, especially, it's absolutely important. So here we go. So I'm going to talk about things that overall have happened this year so far, starting with January and February. Admittedly, I don't remember anything from it. I really don't even remember what did I do for my birthday? Did I have a birthday this year? Anyways, I'll start this explanation of this year so far back in March, when this whole novel coronavirus thing started happening. Ended up being pretty huge with the self-quarantining and the stay-at-home orders that, by the way, local authorities could choose whether or not they were going to enforce it, which, if you must know, PD chose to do it because they bend over backwards for the state all the time. Sheriff's office here chose not to enforce it because they weren't going to violate people's rights to anything, to go to work or to make their own money or to go to church and worship as they see fit. They weren't going to do that because it would have been immoral. So over a month of that, and we're still kind of going through that. Apparently phase 3 is supposed to start on Monday. I'm making this on Friday. And then today is what, June 5th? So about a week and a half ago, the George Floyd thing happens. The incident with George Floyd happened. And I think everybody was in shock. Worthy of note, we all are upset about it. Nobody's not upset about what happened to George Floyd. I think that's something very important to take note of. And everything that followed it obviously has everyone in a bit of a frenzy, and so many things concerning it that's just absolutely insane. You know, like, there's really no other way to put it. What we're experiencing now is borderline anarchy, and I personally even consider that to be an idea worth considering. But now I see the result of it in how dangerous and how toxic it can really be. Also worthy of note, it is crazy that it took over a week to get 3 of the 4 guys involved with this whole incident in custody. But I think it's something worth being celebrated that they are being tried. That the 3 are being charged for manslaughter, and Chauvin, if I'm saying his name right, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it's something very much worth being celebrated that he's being charged. The charge that they're looking for him is second-degree murder, and although I do think that is the appropriate charge to bring against him, I would advise against doing so, just considering that if the justice system could get it all the way right, we wouldn't even be in this situation. So I think they should go for a charge that's not as severe. You can always try somebody again when they're already in the system, but if the prosecutors go for the most severe charge they can and he walks, they're never going to get him again. They're never going to get another chance at him again. So that's why I advise against that. I think they should try for third-degree murder, or at the bare minimum, manslaughter. The second degree, not to say it's not the most appropriate charge to bring against him, but if it doesn't work, he's going to walk. That's my perspective on the incident itself, but what about everything else? Because that's a lot of what I see, is people engaging in talking about everything else. And that is actually kind of the core of why I'm making this video, and why I'm kind of making this return to social media, because I left because it just became too much. It really just did. It became too much. But in seeing everyone's reaction to this, I feel like it's all connected. The reason I talk about coronavirus and George Floyd is because I feel like it's connected. Not that people have been plotting on George Floyd since the whole coronavirus thing even happened. That'd be outrageous. I feel like it's very convenient that the media exploited the situation with George Floyd the same way they did the coronavirus. And not only did the media exploit it, but public schools went along with it, the state powers went along with it, the federal government especially went along with it. And I say went along with it as if they didn't have any direct input, because they absolutely are the ones organizing this. It could just sound like a nut job, but hear me out. I feel like some of it has to do with how they're going to benefit from it in the long run. And if you were to ask me, I feel like this is a genuine attack not only on liberty, not only on freedom, but on the Gen Z generation. It's been a direct attack on us. It absolutely has been. Because all this year, even before this year, they've been trying to give us reason after reason to not feel any sense of pride in ourselves or in our generation. They want us to feel like in years to come, we're going to be the laughingstock of history. And to a degree, I can't really disagree, if I'm being honest. That's because that is the power that I issued to them. That's the power that we are issuing to them collectively. Because we're not taking ownership of the whole situation. We've lost sight of the fact that we absolutely do have the power to make change happen and to make history happen, as opposed to just watching it happen right before us. As opposed to just letting them make us feel like we're a part of history, so they can be the ones who get all the credit in the world for it. I'm not going to deal with that anymore. That's why I'm making this video. And a big core reason why I feel like it's very important to them that these things keep happening, with the riots and the looting and the people dying, like just this last weekend in Chicago, and the most homicides ever recorded over one weekend. That is insane. Murder capital of the country is breaking records that it sets on a daily basis. Scary times that we're living in. And they want it to be scary. Who's they? Federal government, the media, the state, government schools, or public schools, I guess. Like, you can't convince me otherwise that it's not a government program. They want to see this stuff. And they want us to cringe. They want us to be ashamed. They don't want us to feel like we have anything to be proud of. Like SpaceX with the Starlink mission. That's happening right now. That defines our era. That defines the era that we're in. And that's actually a big deal. But I hardly see anybody talking about it. I hear more people talking about Space Force, the Netflix series, more than I hear them talking about SpaceX and what's actually going on with them. And I feel like a large amount of it has to do with them not wanting us to pay any attention to it. Not because it's not important to us, but because it's not essential to what they need from us. They need people that like me and people that don't look like me to hate each other. They want guys like me to be scared of people that don't look like me. They want guys that don't look like me to be scared of people that do. Because it helps them. Their numbers go up. People become more active on these platforms. And when I say the media, I don't just mean the corporate media, I mean social media. You guys contributed to this machine. Y'all engaged so much on this machine without even realizing that you're contributing to the problem, to the real problem. And the real problems that we deal with are the ones that they create. And they sit back and just let us contribute to. My real challenge for you guys this week, or really just for the remainder of this year, or really the remainder of the rest of your life, would be to disengage with the hate. You know what I mean? In other words, if you sense the urge to lash out on a platform like this, especially on a platform like this. If you feel the urge, if you sense the urge to want to lash out of anger, or out of hate for another person, or a perspective, or a point of view, or position that may not be identical to yours, then disengage with it. Don't engage in that conversation if you know that you're going to be angry, that you're going to be aggressive. Because what anger and aggression creates, it creates a lot of things, but it doesn't create progress. With all this fear and anger and aggression in the world, all it creates, if you're scared, if you're angry, it's understood why you would behave aggressively. But in doing so, you only create more fear and more anger and more aggression, and that's what they want. Because it helps them. They need us to hate each other, so these things keep happening. They don't care that this stuff happens until it comes to right to their front door. Because people are gonna get sick of this, and people have. I think it's about time we collectively said enough is enough. Because the truth of the matter is, if we were divided, if we chose to stay divided and separate ourselves on the simple basis of our ideologies are different, then they could use every one of us for everything. They'll use the pain and the suffering of a minority group whenever they need to. They'll use the privilege that a high class of people get to reap the benefits from. They'll exploit the living crud out of it whenever they need to. They can use every one of us for everything that they could possibly want. But if we were together, seeing things the same way, actually that's a poor choice of words there, sorry. Maybe not necessarily seeing things the same way, but definitely having the same sense of perspective and understanding, because we're willing to communicate. We're willing to listen to each other. And at the end of the day, even if we don't agree, we stand together understanding that that's what's going to create progress. If we chose to do that, and they couldn't use any of us for anything. Therefore, we take the power back. We take it away from them and give it back to ourselves. We give it to them by engaging aggressively, engaging out of anger and out of hatred for our fellow man on the simple basis that we believe something different. That's why I had to leave. That's why I had to log out. And just doing so, just in general, is actually a very healthy thing to do. Because, I mean, it's just a little world that we live in. We don't have to exist in this world. In this little world that if they took me off the internet, would it really change anything I do? That's a question I ask myself all the time now. I'm trying to separate myself from in here and become more live out here. If they take me off the internet, what it's not going to stop me from doing is reading my Bible, from going to work, making my money, making my music, being able to inspire people the way that I do with my words. It just means that I don't get to do it in the same format. That's all it means. It means that they don't get to reap the benefits from me doing it. Me engaging on here helps them, especially doing so for all the reasons that I'm doing so. They don't care that the entire country's in a frenzy. As long as we can be outraged with each other, like we can be angry at each other in our own communities, or even with people that we don't even know, that we're never gonna have a human interaction with. And this little thing, come out of it. You need to exist outside of this to really be able to make an impact. That's something I'm working to fulfill. That's an ideology I'm working to fulfill. And what I want is for you guys to join me. We can't just be active on here. However it is we think we need to be active on here, when we shut this thing off, if we don't have the same problems on here that we do out here, That's a double standard. That's a double life that we're living. They want every single person to be a fraud. They want to be able to exploit every one of us by allowing us to be fake and encouraging us to be fake, by contributing to causes that hardly have anything to do with us, thereby contributing to problems that they create. I'm not saying they're directly responsible for the division that happens, but they definitely throw an extensive amount of fuel on that fire. That's why the problem never gets better. They insist on us they respond in the same ways that we do. So to these situations, history will repeat itself, and until we just break this cycle of insanity, then this stuff is going to keep happening. And we're going to if we keep responding the same way, it's going to keep happening. We need to find another way. This is our time to do it. This is our time to shine. Millennials, they wasted that. They wasted their chance to get it right. It's our turn to do it. And if I learned anything this past week in being offline, got more in touch with myself on a spiritual basis, which brought me to a more stable position emotionally. Which is why I'm trying not to get too angry. I want to be passionate. I want to display my message as passionately as I possibly can. But I don't want it to be because I'm angry at anybody. I don't seek out an opportunity to release my anger or be aggressive or be hateful and get my point across or to dominate, so to speak. This is humility. This is me announcing myself as being one with you guys, being a part of this with you. This isn't a movement I'm not the head of this movement. You're not the head of this movement. We collectively are the movement. And as a believer, as of this last week, it's been really refreshing for me to be in the Word. If you're not a believer, it's okay. Don't feel excluded, because this message is absolutely for you too. Ecclesiastes chapter 4, verse 9 through verse 12. 2 are better than 1, because they have a good return for their labor. If either of them falls down, one can pick the other up. But pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them up. Also, if 2 lie down together, they will keep warm. How can one keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, 2 can defend themselves. A cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken. If we chose to stand united and decide we're not going to let them pin us against each other anymore, that's when change can really happen. We can all lift ourselves up out of this hole that we're in. I love my community. I love my country. But we're not perfect by any means. We don't get it right all the time. But at the same time, there's no reason for young folks like us to be ashamed. So another side challenge that I have for you guys in this video would be to find something to be proud of. Quit just letting them force feed you all this stuff to be angry and pissed off about. Find something to take pride in. Find something to celebrate that's happening in our time right now. But the core message that I want to send to you guys would be to disengage with the hate and to separate yourself from it. If you sense anger and hatred in your heart, turn off the phone, log out, set it down, hands off the keyboard, We trap our minds and we trap our hearts by letting them put us in a cage like that. It's like a cage or like a jail cell. That looks super comfortable. You don't feel the need to leave. You feel like there's a purpose to be fulfilled somehow. Is the gate slamming shut? It's hard to say. But I think it's obvious that they want to slam that gate shut for good. It's apparent now more than ever. They're trying to take the ground out from below us and tell us that we're falling. But what they don't want to tell us is that it's their fault. They're creating fear, they're creating anger. They're allowing us to be aggressive with each other. They're willing to just step back and let us hate each other. And I get it, free speech and all that. But they initiate this hatred. They initiate this aggression. They initiate this negative energy that we choose to engage with. And by engaging with it, we pass the power that we have over to them. I think it's about time we took it back. So to close this thing out, this thing is really long already. I want to address every last one of you by saying, I love you all. And that I've been struggling to think that we're really going to be okay. But speaking for where my mind is at right now, and where my heart is at, I lean more on the side of we're going to be okay. We're going to be fine. But of course, it's not just up to me, it's up to you. No more relying on anybody else to pick up the slack for us. No more relying on anybody else to do anything for us. We gotta go out and get ourselves. If we want to see change, we need to be the change. It's about time we spoke for ourselves. I love you guys. I hope every one of you stays safe. God bless y'all.